Uh, you wait for the PPTs to get set just for a few seconds. Yeah. Okay. So I have been, okay, my name is Shashank Rajurkar, and I've been currently running few projects like TractionMate.com, listbuildify.com, and quite a few, and they basically are meant for building early traction for the new products or the new projects. So I work with entrepreneurs and startup founders and people who are doing side hustling. They may not necessarily mean to have companies form, but then they are doing some side business actually, which also needs, kind of growth and some validations. And so that's kind of, work I do. And before that, I mean, my journey to entrepreneurship has been pretty long one. I started with actually my long stint in a venture fund long back. Then I taught entrepreneurship. That's when Dr. Rama Vaidyanathan and I actually interacted in the context of NEN actually in those days. And I also ran a few businesses actually, which were in collaboration with some Australian firm some time back. And now I'm coming back to the focus of my passion, which is more of actually entrepreneurship. So, how much time, Rama, how much time do I have actually? So that I'll pace it accordingly and 25 minutes. Okay, excellent. Okay, can we go to the next slide? So this is a rough agenda which I have prepared. One is the introduction, which I have done a little bit. Maybe I'll tell a little bit actually, once we go there. Then there is something called transitional kind of challenge. So we heard from the speakers that when we start actually a project, which is more of a scientific project or maybe paper patent kind of project or prototype kind of project, but then that doesn't define entrepreneurship. There's a huge kind of transition that actually happens between a project to till the time you reach entrepreneurship, and that's something that I'm going to touch upon. Then the next part, maybe about 5 minutes, I'll spend on why is important. We heard from the chief guest that you need to know which direction you're going. It's only then you can probably go try and make efforts to reach there. So if you're confused about why you are doing this project, there's no way you would actually be able to reach anywhere, achieve anything out of it. You might just engage it actually for the sake of engaging with the project. So this is the third part. The fourth part is what is the main thing that matters actually in this transition. But there's only one key thing that actually matters. The rest of the things doesn't really matter. What technology you're building, what other things you're doing to work on your project. So that's something that I'm going to touch on. And of course, Samika. So can we go to the next slide? Next one, introduction. Yeah. So I talked about a little bit of myself, but I want to add 1 or 2 lines here. Essentially, my focus, when I say I work on building traction for the early stage projects or products, what I mean by traction essentially is the engagement of your product or product idea with the market or with the customers or with the users. Now, at the idea stage, traction takes a different kind of a form, which is like engagement with of the users with the kind of problem that you're solving for him. How much does the user resonate with actually the kind of pain point that you're trying to solve? So that actually defines the traction in the idea stage. As you move on, you launch a product, you build a product, then the engagement traction defines in terms of the engagement with your how people engage and resonate with the solution, the kind of solution that you're actually offering. So it actually, and then eventually when you're commercializing, you're selling product, then the traction actually becomes sales or profit. But then at an idea stage, right now where you are, it is more of actually defining the traction in terms of how they resonate with the kind of pain point that you're trying to solve for them. So my focus area and my passion actually is really about the traction in the idea stage, or a little beyond the idea stage. And essentially, this process. What I mean by customer discovery process is something which you start with some hypothesis about the problem that you're trying to solve, or the kind of people that you want to solve the problem for. These are your assumptions in your head. They may be true, may not be true. So you need to work on ways to define those hypotheses and test them, validate them from the actual real work in the market. So that's what actually defines the customer discovery process, and that actually kind of leads to the early traction. Okay, can we go to the next one? We skip this. Oh, okay. Now we move on to the second part, which is a transition. Now, essentially, we start with the idea or kind of project idea in our head. Essentially, it is a hobby project kind of a stage. We have passion about maybe converting waste into something or doing something else into something. But it's a more of a idea that you're passionate about. So it more works at a hobby level. And what happens at a hobby level essentially is that we spend our energy and time on our hobbies only when we have time and when we feel like doing it. So that defines actually how we engage with the hobby level projects. We don't actually have a committed time and energy and commitment to go towards particular direction when we are at a hobby stage. So you start at a hobby stage. The next stage actually comes when you start actually working on, you start meeting people from incubator, you start meeting people from outside, and you start understanding, what could be the customers and what kind of revenue I can make, what kind of profit I can make, and you start calculating in your head, oh shit, I can actually make money out of this. So that's a stage actually you kind of move on to actually when you move from the first stage of the hobby project. Once that stage is crossed, that is still not an entrepreneurship. The next stage actually comes in where you are seeing that your hobby has reached a point where you find it annoying that your studies and other things are actually coming in a way to pursue this. You feel that the kind of commitments that you have for your submissions and your lab works and other things which are required for your academic things, you start actually feeling annoyed that they are coming in my way to work on this project. So that stage you reach. I doubt if somebody out here actually has in that stage already actually. It's not like hard and fast rule that you go through the sequence, but then usually that takes some time. Once you reach that stage, you start working creatively to solve the challenges that your academic stuff is coming in a way. You start working around ways to actually find time and find methodologies and strategies to actually build your project further within those challenges and start doing that. And you start actually doing hustling, the real hustling. So what I mean by hustling is hustling stages like you are doing a lot of energetic moves in terms of moving around in the market, meeting a lot of people, talking with a lot of people in the context of your project idea and the pain point that you want to solve and stuff like that. And once that hustling stage reaches a kind of a momentum, that's when you reach a point, the stage of tipping point, where the whole energy that you're putting in your project actually reaches a point where you feel that things are now started selling. Somewhere, some solutions seem to be emerging. What difficulties I started at the early stage when I was at a hobby stage or in the second stage of, I just thought theoretically this could make money. In the stage 5, which is like a tipping point where you start seeing some dots getting connected. And once you keep pushing that actually stage, and that's when you reach a final stage of oh shit, I'm in actually. So that's a stage you have somewhere reached the base of entrepreneurship. It is not entrepreneurship, but you are actually hitting the base of the entrepreneurship. And if you define actually the whole process actually, if you see maybe some of you, maybe some of the stages might get combined, collapsed. Some of them might take stage 2 very long time, stage 3 very long time. It all depends on your situation, your particular individual situation. Now, why this is important for us to know these stages actually? And this is something which is not invented by me. It is something which I have seen actually people doing it. As I said, I work with the people like you who work on ideas and new products actually at a very, very early stage. They all start to the hobby level. They all reach a point where they feel, yes, they could probably make money out of this. they all see, reach a point where there is a tipping point and things start actually falling in place. And then you reach a point where you have emerged or evolved some of the solutions about maybe the kind of clarity on the pain points or the clarity on the value propositions and about the basics of your business model. So if you actually handle this transition well in your personal journey, as you start, you work on your projects actually, if you handle this transition well, what happens is you're building a right kind of a base for the future entrepreneurship that probably you're going to be launching beyond stage 6. But if you don't do this right, if you don't understand the journey yourself, you're not being mindful about what's happening with your own situation. This is going to be very unproductive, very unsatisfactory kind of experience, and that would lead to not only your failure in terms of actually going anything beyond the point, or definitely beyond point, stage 6. It also will affect your academics and other commitments actually that you already do. So it is not a very wise thing actually to be ignore this whole process actually of some people going through actually to reach the base of the entrepreneurship. Yeah. For some of the student entrepreneurs I've seen, this journey is very smooth. They just sail through easily, but some of them it is very bumpy. I've been working with some students even from this institute also actually. So I've kind of observed that also. Some other contexts also I've seen some people find it very easy to sail through this and reach the point where they are ready for takeoff after phase 6. So what are the key challenges really happening here in this transition? Challenge number 1 is actually as you move from the left side, which is the hobby stage project, to the base of entrepreneurship stage. First challenge is you're basically moving away from the bliss of your project. When you start at a hobby level, the project is only for you. It only gives you a kick. It only gives you satisfaction that this is something awesome I'm doing. It is nothing about nobody else around in the world, not only your friends or even your relatives or your parents, nobody. As long as it is giving you pleasure, you are actually driven by the whole idea, and then you start working on it. So it is a blissful kind of a situation. But as you move around, further on the right side, and as you move towards the right side of actually reaching some momentum, some tipping point, and actually the base of entrepreneurship, this blissful situation actually is something that you're going to lose, because you start understanding this is not about me and my blissfulness, but it is more about somebody else and somebody else's blissfulness that I need to worry about. So this is a major transition. Not many people are willing to take on, and that they remain stuck at the left portion of the transition stage. They are not just able to move because they don't actually really get a point as to why this is something about somebody else and not about me actually. The pleasure I am getting from this project. So this is challenge number 1. Challenge number 2 is there's a lot of intensity of work suddenly that actually goes on. Like for example, in your college, you're studying, you give exams, then maybe you get, some of you get 90% mark, some of you get 70% mark, some of you get 60, 50, maybe 40% is the cutoff level for passing, but most of you do pass. And as long as you're passing, you cross the milestone of second year or third year or whatever actually milestone is actually. But in entrepreneurship, as you move in the transition towards the right side, you don't get marks for being at 40% and 50% or 60%, not even at 90% mark level. You get passed, you get to cross the milestone only when you are absolutely 100% on the dot when it comes to meeting what customer wants. You cannot expect a customer to use your product if it is meeting only 90% of his expectation or 80% of the expectation. He's not going to go for it. So you don't get marks for how much you have done hard work to reach 70% marks level, but the customer is going to actually judge you and evaluate you, your performance, from the 100% marks, how far you are actually right now. If you are too far, he is going to walk away. If you are 90%, maybe he will say that, okay, fine, let's talk about and let's find out actually, how you can still build the product that I'm looking for. But if you are at 50%, maybe he thinks that it's a waste of time talking with you. There's no point in actually wasting my time and your time. So you use all the efforts that you put in actually for this person. So the intensity of work that is required for getting 60% marks and 100% marks. That's the difference of the intensity of work I'm talking about when it comes to your challenge for the challenge for moving of the transition phase. Now, the third challenge actually is basically it's like going to take a lot of time actually. This entrepreneurship, even if to reach the base of entrepreneurship, it is not going to be like just a hobby stage where you're doing it whenever things are, relaxed and I don't feel like studying or I don't feel like going out. So, okay, fine, I'll do some coding or I'll do some work in the lab. It doesn't happen that way. Like currently, for example, 90% of your time probably you spend on your accounts, with your family, with your friends, Netflix, everything what you do currently. It's only 10%. Probably you might end up working on the project. But as you move towards the transition phase, the whole ratio is going to be actually flipped other way around. It will be requiring you to spend 90% of your time for this project and 10% of the time actually you're spending for your rest of the commitments. Your family, Netflix. So you can imagine a lot of compromises and a lot of, you have to let go of few things that you may be deriving pleasures or you may be engaging with actually currently. So not many people are actually subconsciously ready for that kind of transition. So that's the challenge number 3. Okay, next one. So any questions so far? Actually, quick question, 1 or 2 questions I can handle actually about the transition. Anybody has anything to say? Yeah, nobody? Okay, so let's move on to the next phase, next section, which is why is important. As I said in the beginning, you need to know why you are doing this project. Can somebody, any who are the people joining this new batch today? Actually, can you raise a hand? Okay, now maybe 2 or 3. Can you just say why you are doing this project? Whichever project you are actually taking up. Any 1 or 2, 3 people, just quick. Okay, how many of you don't know actually why you are doing it? You first raise a hand so that I will exclude you. That's also possible. That's allowed. Okay, so all of you know why you are doing it. So tell me why you are doing this project. What you're doing. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Please. I mean, I know some of them. Yogesh, I know. Mahesh, I know. So, please pitch in. Why you are doing this project. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Commercializing. Okay. What do you mean by commercializing? You want to earn profit. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody from the new batch actually? I want to hear. Can you speak loudly? I'm not able to hear you actually. I'm sorry.
Opportunity to convert your idea into a product.
But still, I don't know why you're doing it. You might have to watch Netflix. Why are you choosing between watching Netflix and doing work on this idea? That is the question I have. I mean, you have 100 things you could do, right? I mean, you could meet friends, you could actually go for movies, you can actually, spend time with family, you can study, maybe you can be a topper. But you are choosing to commit some part of your energy into this project, and what is the reason actually? Why are you doing it?
So I want to make a product that will be useful to the communities.
Okay. All right. And why do you want to do that?
So to make a great difference and create my own identity.
Okay, you want to create your identity.
Yeah, and to make a great difference.
Which one of the two is important to you?
Both is important.
If
And
I'm
it is
if I'm giving
in
you
behalf of that.
if I'm giving you permission only to take one, which one you will take?
If I make a difference, for sure I'll get an identity.
No, I'm not giving both. It's very clear. You choose one.
Okay, I'll make it getting difference.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Only one more answer.
I encountered a problem myself, so I thought about the solution.
Okay, so you are doing this because this solves the problem that you are facing right now.
Right?
Okay, excellent. Now let's move on to the next slide. I'm going to give you a story actually. Okay, this is a kind of story of fiction actually. It is not real time story, but it kind of connects to actually the point which I'm trying to make here. One day I was going for a walk and in my locality, and there was a huge construction site actually. There were like a lot of hustling of activities, a lot of laborers actually working and workers actually going up and down, moving their parts and all those materials and stuff. So I didn't have any work, so I thought why not go and have a chat with them actually. So I went down and met one worker. I asked the question, why are you doing this work? So this man, this first worker, he said, I'm doing this work because I need to earn money to support my life. I need to support my family, I need to support myself, we need to buy food, we need to, rent and everything, so I need to earn money. That is the reason I'm doing this work. Now, how many of you kind of resonate with this reason actually, to choose doing something? Raise your hand. Nobody wants to work for money. So if I give you work which doesn't pay you, but then like it will give you other things that you're looking for, you will spend time. Okay, there are some people. Fair enough. That's the valid reason. I mean, after all, we do actually need money, cash actually. Otherwise, how will you survive? So I moved on. I went and met another chap. There was another worker I met. I asked the same question: why are you working here? What are you doing, and why are you doing this actually? So he said, this kind of work actually is very fascinating for me because it is giving me opportunities to hone my skills actually. I'm improving my skills. And if I asked, why do you want to improve your skills? So he said, if I improve my skills, I can probably, get much better paying job, or I'll get more satisfaction about what I'm actually doing. I'm growing as a person actually. I'm looking for personal growth. So how many of you kind of resonate with this kind of reason to do something like this actually? Quite a few. Yeah? Okay. Now I moved on and I met another person actually. I asked the same question, what are you doing and why are you doing this? So this man gave me a different answer. He said, this is actually a big hospital project coming up here. If once this is, there, it's going to serve a lot of people, community of this city. So I feel very proud that I'm being a part of and I'm contributing to building this project, hospital project, which will have a huge impact on the lives of other people, literally to the extent of saving their lives and maybe even, meeting the medical emergencies. So he's looking at actually, kind of doing this work because it gives him opportunity to make an impact on others. Yeah? How many of you resonate and feel like this is something which sounds good? Okay. Alright. So I continued on the journey, but then like we don't need to go through all the people as to what they said. Now, what do you think would be out of these three guys? First one who said he's working for earning money. Second one, he says I'm working because for my personal growth opportunity. And the third one saying I'm working on this project or I'm working on this work because it actually impacts a lot of people, other people. So which one of these three would be highly motivated actually? On the scale actually, which will be the least motivated and which will be the highest motivated, and who will be the middle? Can somebody tell, say, guess? Anybody? Which one? Money is the least. Okay. All
Third one is the highest.
third is the highest. Everybody agrees with this? Second is the highest. Because personal growth is important and making difference. But you said making difference is what you choose. You're contradicting yourself. Yeah? Okay. Now, a lot of people said back there that money is what they are actually working on. Are they saying that money will be the most, money man will be the most motivated guy here? Are they confirming this? No. I didn't see, hands being raised. So what is happening actually here? This is happening because we are not clear as to why we are doing what we are doing. If we are clear and mindful about actually why I want to do this work, then the confusion doesn't happen actually. No matter how tricky question maybe that I might put forward, still you'll be very firm about the choices you're making because you know the underlying reasons as to why you're making the choices. That's number one reason why there is disconnect. Like this girl actually, she said she wants to make a difference, but then ultimately she says something else actually is more important. Okay. So the point to be taken here, and that connects to the first section. When I say there is a lot of intensity of work that's going to, increase, coming up as you start moving on the transition, which would mean you need a huge motivation level actually. If you are not motivated actually enough, then every obstacle that you meet, and I can promise you there will be hundreds of obstacles every week. You would actually walk out and you will be demotivated even if you continue engaging in the project, you will be looking at it as a burden actually. That's not a very healthy way to engage with something like this. So better be clear on actually what really is the most motivating factor. Science tells that money is the least motivating thing. People who work on the money or kind of related goals or the reasons that they fall in the lowest possible kind of motivation kind of factors. On the higher side, do people guess it right? It comes from the people who are trying to impact others. Because the science says that when you're impacting others, it actually gives you a sense of abundance, and actually you feel you are having a lot of things to give, and you're here to make a difference. It makes you powerful, and that power is very critical for you to overcome these obstacles. So it's very important that you start aligning your reasons. Even if you may be money oriented right now, even if you may be oriented and more connecting with the personal growth and the skills that you're looking for to improve, start shifting your reasoning to making impact on others. It's very important. Till the time that doesn't happen, till the time you are in the first two levels, money oriented, personal growth, they are very self-centric kind of factors. They are not outward looking kind of factors. So self-centric factors make you feel, kind of isolated. You are more on the survival mode. So when you are on the survival mode, you feel there are less resources and I need to conserve. So you start taking lesser risks. When you start taking lesser risks, you stop seeing the points where the dots get connected. And that's very important that you are able to start seeing those things actually when you start working on a project. It's only then projects will move forward. Nobody else can do that. It's a work that you probably will end up doing it at some stage. You cannot outsource that work. So it's very important, and when the factor is outward focused, not self-centered kind of focus, then what happens is you actually move to the sense of abundance and you start feeling very powerful, positive, and obviously it starts working on your mind, you start actually seeing opportunities, then you start doing calculation in your head, if I do this, maybe this will lead to that will lead to this, and eventually this will happen. So you start visualizing those things, like as a robot. They start coming as natural as the breath actually, that you do. When you take breath, you're not conscious about taking breath. So that should start happening actually to your abilities to see those things in your head calculations, of seeing how dots would be connected in the context of your project. So this is the main reason why you should start moving towards your, the third factor as the, reason for doing this project. Now, other thing which is more connecting also is that when you do that, it also becomes helps you to move from your bliss of your self-pleasure oriented project to a project which is meant for somebody else. It also aids into that, kind of transition actually. So it actually helps to start working on that. Okay. Anybody wants to know how they can do that and what they need to do, you can catch me later on and I can actually tell you. I don't want to get into that, the nitty-gritties of the process. Okay, so next slide. Any questions so far actually on this why? Anybody has any point to say or comment to say anything on this? Nothing? Okay. So we go to the next, section, which is the second last section, which is only thing that matters. Only thing that matters is actually as you move towards the right side of the transition, you must have guessed by now what is the only thing that matters for you to reach, make the transition right. Can somebody guess that? You cannot guess for that because you've seen that actually, so I'm not giving you. Okay, anybody else? You can be right or wrong, that's fine. I just want to know, what do you think about it? What is the only thing that matters to, as we move towards the right side of the transition scale? Yeah, quick. You don't have to think much. Yeah? Perseverance. Okay. Anything else? Focus. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Or you all agree with what he's saying? The whole group agrees with these two factors which are most important thing? If you don't, then you come up with something. Anybody from the backside? 100% satisfaction from the customers. Okay. All right. So you have three choices now. Anything more you want to add? Yes? Okay. Let's go to the next slide. This gentleman was right. The only thing that matters is actually customers. Because you cannot have a entrepreneurship without customers. If you don't have customers or users, you're going to buy and use your product, what entrepreneurship are you talking about? You build a product, but there's no taker. Yeah? So, customers is the most important thing. Can we move to the next one? And this is something that I just picked up from some survey by CD Insights actually on, some recent survey that they did on 101 startups that failed. They did some survey to understand what factors really are, whether the reasons of their failure. And guess what was the top number one reason? The number one reason why these startups actually failed, majority, almost 60% of them actually had this reason, was there was no need for the product. There was no market need actually. That means there was no customer who wanted your product. Yeah? So this is the topmost reason. Next slide. This slide is about, I just analyzed actually the top 10 reasons that actually they found in the survey as to, why the startups fail. And I don't know if you are able to read some of them, but then essentially, can somebody read from there actually? Because even I can't read actually, I'm sure you people can. Can somebody read out actually? Aloud? Yeah, the right side, those points.
No market need, ran out of cash, not the right team, get out completed.
Competition beat you out.
Pricing or cost issues, user unfriendly product without a business model, poor marketing, ignore customers, product mismanagement.
Okay. So essentially the point which I am saying is 7 out of these top 10 reasons they relate to the market and the customers. The only 2 or 3 points which don't really connect directly, to the market or customers. So that's actually the kind of importance of market. Yeah? Market and customers. Now, you might be wondering, you are here for, building a prototype. you joined this program for building a prototype, right? And so why should you worry so much about customer? As long as you are able to build the prototype well, and if it works actually, mechanically or whatever technology that you are going to adopt, if it works, that gives you a satisfaction. So that should suffice actually. Why should you bother about customers and market actually? It's none of your business actually. So how many of you feel that way actually? Nobody feels that way? Are you sure? Okay. So essentially what happens is actually when you are not thinking about customers and you believe your mindset is actually about you're here to build a prototype and a successful prototype, then what happens is at the end of the 1 year journey or whatever time frame that you have, you build a prototype and you build a product, and then you go to the market and then you find that there's no market need. There's not a single customer who wants to buy or test out or use a product. So what happens to the effort that you put in actually for the last 1 year? It all goes waste. Maybe you could have utilized in something else. If you had instead studied, you probably might have scored well and been a topper. Or you would have watched more Netflix actually, instead of doing the work on the project, which eventually failed. Yeah. So it's very important actually that your mindset actually should not be a limiting kind of mindset. Your mindset about this project actually should be not in terms of a goal of building a prototype. Your aim should be to build a business around this idea. There's a major mindset shift actually that need to happen. Till the time your mindset actually is all about building a prototype, your focus area would be essentially to find ways to make it more faster, productive, and kind of more learning experience for you. But then the moment you shift that mindset to this is a project for building a business around this idea, then actually it becomes more about other people, customers, and the users for whom you are trying to build this product. That mindset is actually very critical, and that's something that we are trying to build this actually, through the kind of a series of engagements on customer discovery that I'm actually helping Dr. Gamal to this with the whole batch and your batch, and so I guess probably sometime in the next few weeks, probably we should start. Next week we will start.
So, I think we have a group, WhatsApp group made for these students. So we will just interact and find out when we can start.
Okay.
We would like to start as soon as possible. So we are, I'm very excited with the interaction that you people are having. It's very nice to hear your voice too. So what do you people think? Next week, we are planning 2 sessions per week to validate your idea. So can we start from next week? But next week is the Christmas week. Let's give.
Yeah, okay. First of, New Year actually. First.
Let's start with the New Year. So we're looking at 2 sessions per week, and we will decide on the timing. So all of you finish your classes by 3 o'clock. All your classes are done. So what would be convenient after you get back home or 4 to 5? You please let us know the ideal timing for you, and we will organize it. It's very important both for the mentors and the students to go through these sessions, and that will be a lot of experiments that you will need to do to really understand about your own motivation and what you need to do. I think it's extremely important for you to do that the next 1 month. The faster you do that, better suited you will be for the next round of activities. So we are looking at first of 2021.
Okay. So most of it probably will happen online actually because of COVID situation. We don't want to actually have. I've been working with the old batch. Like we have very informal kind of situation where we have a WhatsApp group and we like maybe make calls actually one-on-one basis whenever required. We have some group calls and stuff like that. So we'll work out and evolve some process. Okay, let's move on to the final conclusion or summary kind of thing, the last thing. Essentially, when Dr. Rama asked me to work on helping out on customer discovery process for the activities here, and then she also wanted me to kind of focus on this theme actually, in today's talk. But then when I started reflecting on actually a couple of days back to work on this, I realized that the major work for you guys, initial work, is all about mindset changing than skill acquiring. Your skills to on business development or business model development, understanding pain points, and all those things will come to you the moment you start shifting your mindset. The moment you start shifting your mindset from a hobby project to more of an entrepreneurship-oriented kind of journey, customer-oriented journey. It is about others and not about your own growth and your own actually satisfaction and pleasures. So, moment you start undertaking that journey, actually, the rest of the things start falling in place. You start seeing the opportunities to learn the skills. You don't need me or Dr. Rama actually all the time. You will be empowered actually to find those opportunities. And I'm pretty sure and confident I've seen that happening actually. It happens. So the major work is all about mindset, and that's the reason I kind of decided to focus, today's talk on more on the mindset and the transition journey than on about the customer discovery and the techniques or the exact program of how things are going to actually pan out. So that kind of sums up as to what I'm here for today and why I was here. So I would be happy if somebody has any points, questions, comments, anything quickly before we hand over the mic to the team. Anything anybody wants to add? Yeah.
On a practical mindset, everyone works on a personal growth, right?
Okay.
On a practical mindset.
Okay.
So when we have a priority on a practical mindset,
Hmm.
and when it comes along with the growth, a great impact will create. We
Okay.
should have a practical mindset as a personal opinion on yourself.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
we can
Can we?
create a practical.
Okay. I'll just take you back to the slide which I just took the 3 workers on the construction side. Can you just go back? Yeah, that's one. So if you see the third man here, he said he is here to he works on this project because it is making impact on a lot of people's lives. It is going to save people's lives. So while that remains a motivating reason for him, he also has a growth opportunity. He also gets to own his skills. He also gets to earn what the first man actually is all here for. Those things are actually being met with along actually. If you are on the higher level of actually motivation factor, they're not in conflict. But if you remain at the lower level of motivating factors, then you are conflicting with the higher levels. But if you are at the higher level, they won't conflict with the rest of the other motivating things. You do end up getting money, you will get paid, you will actually have skills upgraded, everything will happen actually. If you have the right mindset about making impact on others. Yeah? Anybody else? Anything else? Anybody wants to ask or say anything? Or don't agree with what I just shared? You have some other point to add to? Okay. Yeah. So I take your leave now and thank you for